Okay, first up is an overview of the proposed school budget.
Are you gonna put that up on?
I know. Did you have your thumb drive? Because
No, I
you
didn't.
don't. Okay, it's fine.
All right.
Just give me a
I do
second.
have some paper copies here, but I don't know if you want me to hand them out or I didn't bring copies.
I will be right back before I get started. Sorry.
Okay, so if somebody wants a paper copy, does anybody have a board?
Sure.
And then there's, maybe you guys could share the rest here.
Thank you so much.
Pass this around, sure. I thought I was gonna put it up. So my name is Carol Stein. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business. And I do give regrets because our acting superintendent, Joel Adelberg, was going to come tonight, but he had a family issue he had to deal with. So
No problem.
I'm representing the school district, but I've been doing this for a while, so it's kind of second nature for us at this point to make these kind of presentations. Can you hear me okay and everything?
Sure.
Okay, so this is like a little bit high.
Yeah, and that is mostly so the people
At home can hear, okay, great. Okay, so we always, when we build our budget, we have our vision, and we look at our vision and our strategic plan. And so we always are looking at our students' academic and social emotional growth. We're looking at continual improvement. We're looking at maintaining our facilities. We're looking at making sure our staff has professional development. And we're making sure that the budget is going to be fiscally sound and sustainable, and that we can meet tax levy cap guidance and all things like that. So we're always looking at that. And we've worked really hard to align to our strategic plan. And our strategic objectives, we actually redid our strategic plan. I don't know if anyone's followed, but we sent out a lot of things on this in the community this past year. But we're focusing on student success, our learning environment, community engagement, which is partly what we're doing here tonight, and then also stewardship of resources. So those are our 4 overarching objectives, and then underneath that, there's quite a few sub-objectives. But all of the budget proposals in the budget we work with does work with the strategic plan. And when administrators come to us with their ideas, they have to actually put down in their request sheet, how does it align with the strategic plan? So that's kind of like it's a real intensive process for us. So I'm on page 3. And so the budget process itself is quite intense. We start early. I'm on the next slide. And so we start really early, and we go to, we're looking at all kinds of analysis. We get information from what the administrators are looking for, and then we present it in piecemeal to our board. We present first the operations and finance portion, along with like what we call the state of the state, in a sense, because we get a lot of state data at that point and where we're thinking they're going to be. We also look at economic factors, inflation, and everything else that's going to affect us. We know we have big drivers this year, like we have big increases in health insurance, and I already know that by January pretty much. What we have a suspicion of what the retirement match rates are going to be. And those are key drivers for us, because if those numbers go up, that's a lot of money. So we have to really be mindful of those big drivers. So we basically go through this process in pieces, and then on April 16th, the board did adopt our budget. May 7th, which is tomorrow, is our actual official hearing, and that's like basically kind of a throwback from the old ways where you tell the community what you're voting on, and it's exactly what I'm doing tonight. We'll do pretty much the same presentation again tomorrow at 7:15 in the school. And then everyone we invite everyone, and we hope everyone will come out and vote on the 21st, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So that's where we're at. All of the budget materials are on our district website, easy to find, each presentation, and so you can see the succession of where our thinking was, where the board made changes. All of that's online. And what you'll see in this presentation are a lot of summary numbers, but all of the detail that goes with it is also is also online. So all of if you really like numbers, you can go there and get a lot of them. So overall, we're looking at a 4.12% increase this year. We break out our budget into two kind of categories. We look at, if we were running the same program this year to next year, we call that our push ahead. What would that cost us? What are the increases in costs? Sometimes there's decreases, debt service decreased, expenses for workers' comp decreased. So there are decreases and there are increases. But overall, generally, there's increases because it's salaries and benefits is our biggest cost. And so those are always going up. We also have to look at how many sections we might have of an elementary sections or class sections even at our campus, at our high school, middle school. So those numbers will all be in the push ahead because we're not changing the curriculum, we're not changing the program, we're just changing maybe enrollment numbers.
That's a raw percentage increase as opposed to its tax calculation?
That's the actual budget to budget increase, 4.12. It actually also happens to be the CPI number this year, but that just happened. I didn't force that to happen
Good
that
to
way.
be lucky.
Yeah, it just worked out something. So, so again, all of the detail has been in the presentations. I outlined push ahead increases over, different in some of the budget presentations. It's not just everything goes up 2% or something like that. We really do it very thoughtfully. And again, we do have some inflation this year that we're factoring in. Kind of tried to hold it off, but it's happening and it's real. So, supplies, contracts, things are going up. So if you go to the next slide, so the next portion was the considerations. So our administrators will come to us with all kinds of ideas of what they want to do and how they want to improve the schools, what they want to see differently. And our list is like 4 pages long, but we have to whittle it down to what we can afford and what we think is the highest priorities for the district. And so this list kind of gives you the things that did make it. Some of them are small dollars, but we put them in there. For example, electronic voting. So when you go to vote on a Tuesday, you're going to be voting still, and we're scanning a paper thing to scan your name in. But next year we'll be doing with tablets, so you can just scan. You can just sign on that tablet, and we'll know. And the beauty of that is every time someone registers, you're not looking for that piece of paper to say are they voter or not. So there's just little things, but other things are facility improvements. Translator is one I'll highlight because we've had quite a few families come in. And while we translate all of our documents, it's different than when you actually want to have a conversation with somebody. So we're looking to pay someone to help us translate mostly in Spanish, but there are other languages, and those we'll have to hire a company for. But we want to be able to have a registration conversation with somebody and really get the right information and set the stage for them. We want to be able to have a principal have a conversation with somebody right together so the translator will be with us. And that's, again, part of our community engagement, a strategic goal. And it's part of our equity and goal, one of our equity goals. We'll be adding a new math curriculum at the K-5 level. This year, we've also added quite a bit of clerical support. And in the past, we've cut a lot of that. So we have never restored those cuts. And this is like we had restored some of the teacher cuts and some of the program cuts that had happened from 7-8 years ago, but we hadn't really ever gotten a chance to restore some of the clerical pieces, and we are doing that now. We're finding ourselves just short. So you'll see a couple of those pieces in there. And then on the technology side, we've realized that we have quite a larger enrollment in computer science than we've ever had. And so we're needing devices to support those classes and to be able to also have a cart of higher-end laptops, not just Chromebooks, but higher-end laptops for those types of classes and other subject areas that need that higher end. Because we mostly use Chromebooks, which suffices for most everything, but not everything can be done on that. And with that, a computer aid is also, we're finding that with the number of devices we now have, almost a one-to-one program. Not all the kids have the one-to-one to take home. Some of them are still in the classroom at the younger levels, but there's always a need for either a teacher to have a computer aid to help them set something up, or the students at need. So when you've planned a lesson and then it doesn't go right, something goes wrong, it's the whole afternoon is shot if you haven't got a computer aid right near there to help you. Unified sports, I don't know if anyone had a chance, in fact, they played today. It didn't make it, but I made it last week. That was probably one of the most uplifting experiences of my year this year, where we saw some of our special ed kids play basketball against other teams with other special ed children. And it was just a wonderful thing to see the smiles on their faces as they made a basket, parents cheering for them. And again, this is not a parent who always gets to see their kid and get cheered for. And our students came out to support them. Our general ed students also came and played with them. It was just really an uplifting experience. So that was funded by the IEF this year. We're going to be adding that into the budget. And this year we piloted the after-school program through our American Rescue Plan funds. And we're going to be doing that again next year. We'll be tweaking it a little bit. We're going to be looking at some of the feedback we're getting from parents, but that's where we also have incorporated our early world language. component to the learning, because we can't quite fit that in the curriculum, but we're finding that it's doing a nice job after school. The kids are doing some French, some Spanish, and they're getting exposure to those languages in addition to a homework help kind of situation there. So those are the new things that we're doing. Obviously, the tax levy cap is really what drives our budget, and it's our biggest revenue category. So this year, we do have an increase of 3.63. The formula is a little complicated. I show this all the time. There's ins and outs and ups and downs, but it ultimately, that's what it came to yet this year. So the CPI max is 2%, which is like halfway down the slide here, but the CPI for the that we're supposed to use is 4.12. So we're limited to 2%. If it goes up to 8, like last year, we were still limited to 2. And that kind of hampers us a little bit. But it is what the state has decided that's going to work for us. And when, of course, it's below 2, then we have to go below 2, even though we may have committed salaries to go above 2. So it's a fun kind of way to try to figure out your budget long-term, but that's where we're at this year. So on the revenue budget, which is the next slide, so again, property taxes is the biggest piece, but we do get state aid, and we are now, in a sense, fully funded for the formula. State aid it's got foundation aid, it has building aid, it has transportation aid. All these other aids are expense-based aids. If you've spent the money, you get them, some of it back. We have pretty low aid ratios because we're a fairly wealthy district, but we do get some money from that. So it's nice to see that we're getting those numbers. I'm curious to see what they do with the formula for next year. We're quite a bit worried that next year they may tinker with the formula and we may go back down again. And we're finally at a point where almost at 10% of our budget is state aid, which is a refreshing statistic. We've been way below that for so long. Tuitions are when we have students from other schools that come here mostly for special ed programs. Sales tax keeps spending here because part of it comes to us, so that's nice. Keep spending in Westchester. We rent space to the BOCES that comes into her. We've had success with interest income this year, earning at about a little over 5% of our on any funds that haven't been spent yet. So that's a big bright spot for us, and other miscellaneous revenues. So all in all, our revenues drive the expense budget. So first you calculate what your revenues are going to be, and then you can decide what you want to spend on your expense side.
Karen, can I just ask you a question
Certainly.
about state aid? I know that up until the last minute, there were much different numbers and
Right.
formulas bandied about. How did that affect your planning, and did the end result be more or less than you were thinking you were going to get?
Right, so we the difference that they were toying with us was about $100,000, but when I looked at the final run, we did get that extra $100,000, but some of the other numbers had gone down. So our excess cost aids had gone down, some of the other things, again, it's based on ratios. So all in all, we were about maybe 14,000 to the good. So I didn't make a change in the budget. And if we get that extra money then, or something like that, we'll end up just putting that towards surplus or using it somehow. I mean, again, and I should have said this from the beginning, a budget is a plan. It's something you're making now, you start making this plan halfway through the year for the following year, and things change. So we'll always see changes in the budget. We make changes in line items throughout the year that the board knows about. But it's something where if you're not exactly on the state aid number, but then anything at the end of the year flows to surplus. And if you ever heard me do a long-range plan presentation or my fund balance presentation at the end of the year, we talk about how that it's generated and what we do with surplus and reserves. In fact, one of the earlier budget presentations, I go into that at length. If you look at the very first one in February, I talk about that in length. So the next slide kind of shows the breakout again. So the big blue piece of it is our property taxes. And then, but the red is getting a little bit better. I want to keep that trend going because, we send a lot of money to Albany through our state income tax from Irvington, and we'd like to see some of it come back to Irvington in the form of state aid. So keep up that, advocacy, because we really would like to see that come back to us. So then once we have our revenue budget, we review our expenditure budget. And here I show it in two different ways. One is by function area. General support is like all of the district office, the business office, infrastructure for technology, things like that. That's a fairly small number. And then you've got the facilities is the next piece, operations and maintenance. Instruction, special education, and instructional support, those three together make up the bulk of instruction. Instructional support might include things like our guidance department, our clubs, our athletics, the library, instructional technology, which is becoming a larger piece of our budget every year. Transportation, obviously, we're supporting that, and then employee benefits is another big, large piece of it, and debt service, which is supporting our capital projects. So then I also reported on the next slide, I reported by more of a category, and you look at it by salaries, benefits, facilities, similar but a little bit different, because on the next slide that I go to is salary. So there, you're basically seeing from this slide that basically 72% of the budget, almost 73% of the budget, is salaries and benefits. And that makes sense because we are in a people business. We have teachers, we have teacher aides, we have custodians, we have clerical, we have administrators. So that's really with the bulk. And when you look at the next slide, and you see it in a picture format, so even if I were to, really try to, cut supplies, it's 1.5% of our budget. It's not an area where we really can make program changes. We can only make program changes in people. And that's a reality. Even in our facilities where we've added some money over the years, is only 4% of our budget. So we're not really overspending in any of those areas. We're spending the money on people that are helping to educate our students. In the next slide, I show the trends that we've been doing over the last several years. I look at 10 years or so. And you can see that that we're at the 4.12. It's a little bit higher than the past couple of years, but again, that's basically because we've had these increases in state aid, where we had the last 3 years now, we've seen those increases in state aid. And this is the last year we expect to see any changes. So there we go. But at the current valuation from the assessor's office that I had gotten in March, it looks to be like a small decrease in our tax rate. That doesn't mean every one person is going to see a tax rate. It depends on what your assessment is. And if you go to the next page, you can actually know the formula for what your assessment would be. And that's, you take your assessed value and you multiply the 19.91 per thousand. So that would give you your estimated tax rate. So again, your assessed value may have changed, but if it didn't go up, then you'll likely see a small decrease for next year. The next slide, I kind of talk about what happens in a contingency budget. And this is important for the community to understand, because if we don't vote for the budget, we have to go back to the tax levy of the previous year. We only get 2 shots at it, so the board could choose to go back up in June if it didn't pass. But if it didn't pass twice, we're going to be cutting $2.3 million from our budget. And as I said before, you're not getting that from supplies or consultants. You're going to get that from staff. You're going to get that from programs. There's also things like you can't use our facilities. Rec would be, the Village Rec program would be affected. There'd be a lot of different ancillary problems that would happen if we were to a contingency budget. While I'm not fearful of it, because this community has always supported our budget, if there's complacency and apathy and people don't come out to vote, which is one of the reasons why I'm here today, I want to make sure people are aware of this, it would be devastating for Irvington, and ultimately would affect people's property value, because a budget that doesn't pass does not look good for a community, so it doesn't support its schools. So I do hope that everybody does come out and vote, and is able to support our budget. And then the last slide just kind of summarizes everything I've kind of been talking about. I won't read from it, but the budget does align with all of our strategic goals. It does all these things. We have so many great programs in Irvington, wonderful things that we're doing with our students. We've had some wonderful outcomes, science research awards, just in everything, athletics, art, music, and then just in curriculum, kids that are just doing some amazing things, and I'm always blown away whenever I attend a program. So, and again, as I said, we're doing things that also meet the needs of our community and help support those efforts. So the last slide is just basically, tomorrow is our hearing. Our vote is on the 21st. And we have done some other presentations. On the last slide, I just kind of show all the different things we've done, but we've met with the seniors, we've met with our PTSA, and we've tried to, engage any community comment we can. And there is on the last slide, it just gives you, if you have a question, you can always email a budget@irvington.schools.org. And you can do this throughout the year. You don't have to do it just at budget time, but we'll answer questions throughout the year. And that's where, if you have a particular question you want to know, or how do I find this information, then we'll direct you in that point of view. So I hope this was somewhat of an overview. I tried to go quickly, knowing that you have a lot of things on your agendas tonight, and this might not be the highest priority, but I just think it's good to give an overview.
Still a big priority for the community, so I thank you for coming out, and certainly if people have questions, they're welcome to ask, but I really appreciate it. I want to encourage people to go out and vote on May 21, Tuesday.
I do too, so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is online as well, okay, all the presentations. Thank you, I'm gonna just scoot out.
No problem.
Enjoy the meeting.
Okay, next up is announcements. Memorial Day ceremonies will be Monday, May 27th, 2024 at 10 a.m. at the Main Street Memorials. And checks over 25,000, Borelli Mechanical for the theater HVAC project, $27,109.79. Pacific Transglobal Construction Corp. Labor funds and materials for the senior center for heat pump and boiler removal project, $47,148.93. Those guys contracting rebuilt the steps and sidewalk at the Field Point parking lot, and that amount is $26,500. Okay. Now for the correspondence portion of our evening. Is Diana Rigos here? Do you want me to present your letter? Do you want to present your letter?
I'd like to present it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Diana Rigos. I want to thank the village board and the mayor for allowing me to be here today and address what has been laid on my heart. My family and I have been residents of Irvington for many years and consider moving here a true blessing. However, recently I've seen a shift in our village. Our historical unified village has been divided. For me, it's clearly displayed in the month of June. My opposition isn't with the pride flags itself or the community it represents. It's with the fact that it is hung independently or with the American flag in our village. Our village is represented by one flag because we are all Americans. We are one nation. By putting up pride flags, we are choosing individual groups to celebrate instead of celebrating that we are all united under one flag, the American flag. However, the majority of us in our village are not part of the LGBTQ+ community, so now we are excluded, not included. How am I supposed to explain that to my children? It is a representation of how we are building a divide in this village and in our nation. We are not uniting under our American flag, we are being divided under two flags that are hung from Memorial Day until after the 4th of July, which in my opinion is very disrespectful to our fallen heroes, our veterans such as Jim Brennan, and to our current military who are out there protecting us and our freedoms. My proposal is not to hang the pride for the entire month, but maybe hang it for just Pride Day, and not supersede Flag Day, Memorial Day, and the 4th of July. These are holidays that represent us all as one nation. In my opinion, and many others I have spoken to, it is unnecessary and disrespectful to our country and all its people. Thank you.
Okay. Couple of comments. First, it's my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the pride flags are up in June.
Last year, they were up Memorial Day, and they were still up the 4th of July.
Okay, give me a chance to respond. I was respectful and let you
Okay.
speak, so
Pardon, sorry.
it's okay. Let me say a few things. First, since your letter, your original letter also dealt with what I'll describe as certain events like the holiday tree and the egg hunt, and said, hey, that should be the Christmas tree and an Easter egg hunt, I need to point out a couple of things. One of them is the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution that prevents us from endorsing a particular religion, taking a particular path. Second thing I would point out in that regard, you talked about, feeling left out, and I would, since you've emphasized your Christian faith, I would point out that, if I could quote from the Christian Bible, Luke 6:31, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You are, in some respects, taking a position, as it happens, that I'm not Christian. And I respect your holidays and your traditions. In fact, I allowed, and I could say something about it, but there's a creche, there's a tree, there are really Christian displays to some extent in front of the rec department, and we have tried to become more inclusive over the years. And I accept your holidays. And when I say I, it's really the whole board. You want the whole community to accept what you find important. And so I guess I would ask in return that you do what Luke 6:31 says, which is treat others the way you wish to be treated. I assume you want us to respect your holidays and your celebrations and your things that you find important. That pride flag represents a portion of the community. And we are making an effort, and I know there's sort of a national debate about the politics of this, but at least in Irvington, we are making an effort to try to be inclusive of all people. And while you gotta wait, you'll get a chance.
Yes, no problem.
And it's also not yet public comment. This is correspondence, and then I promise you'll get a chance, so just save your thought. So I understand where you're coming from, but, and I respect the fact that you would prefer not to have other flags, pride or otherwise, competing with the American flag. But in the month of June, it happens to be Pride Month. There may be other holidays that people want to celebrate. And unless it's endorsing a religion or it's unconstitutional or it's illegal, I'm not sure that we're gonna object to that. Now, we can have a community debate that we want to exclude people and make people feel like they're excluded. But that is not really what I'm trying to achieve. And I don't know if other people want to add to that. And if you want to respond, I know I cut you off before, so I'll give you the chance.
I'm not opposed to people representing themselves, and I'm not opposed, and I am very grateful that the town puts the creche up. They also put the menorah, but those are religious holidays. To me and to many people, the pride flag celebrates sex. And
It really doesn't. It really, I mean, I understand that to you, that's what it represents, but that's not really what it represents.
but when my children ask me, what is gay, what is lesbian?
Okay, but that's a conversation for you to have with your children.
Exactly.
Okay, but the pride flag is really about, honestly, safety for, it's really about people who have been literally like excluded and feel they don't belong. It's a symbol, it has really very little to do with sex. It's a symbol where people of safety, where people could feel safety and welcome. That's what it is intended to do. It's not a symbol
But it opens
that has
up-
anything to do with sex.
It opens a conversation
It does,
that
but a lot of
leads
things
to that.
open conversations. A lot of things open conversations. And I just want to say one other thing. I think as a community, we're going to be talking, you know, one of the important things that this board has been working on is making Irvington a welcoming and inclusive community. I know that for a lot of people, that means change, right? That means maybe some change for what it meant for people who have lived in Irvington for a long time. People were not used to seeing pride flags and other things. That's gonna be an entire community conversation. And like a lot of people, you know, we've had so much feedback about how important it is to see those flags, especially for people who have felt completely unwelcomed here. So I hear you, and I think we all hear that some people may say, for you, I now have to have a conversation with my kids about sex. I don't think that's what the flags are. Your kids may ask you questions, right? Kids ask questions, but you know, again, there's so many things that I think will evolve from when you want to make a place more welcoming for people. That is going to be an outcome of that.
But it's
right?
not creating a more welcoming community. It's actually making it harder for some of us to live here because we're not being represented.
Okay, I mean, then I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Gloria Leahy wrote to thank us for service to our community and for passing the gas-powered leaf blower ban, and describing how they went on for hours. And the last few Spring Fridays have been so nice, which I can directly attribute to the ban. I can take our kids to the playground. So thanking the trustees for passing the ban and to police officers for enforcing it. please pass along my gratitude to them as well. I give credit to Brian and I guess all of you folks.
No, I wasn't on the
Oh,
board.
you weren't on the board,
We
okay.
agreed to let it come to effect,
Got it.
Larry Lonke's the only person.
Larry
on the
Okay,
board.
Larry, well, I'll give you credit then. And those folks who were on the board when it was passed, I happen to agree with the sentiment of this letter. Next letter is from Michael Douglas, whose home was used to host the president. And it's from his whole family, actually. My family and I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to you and each and every one of the employees of the Irvington Police Department, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, Ambulance Corps, and Village Administrator for your unwavering support during the recent visit of President Biden to Irvington. Your dedication, hard work, and seamless coordination ensured the success of this significant event. From logistics to security, communication, hospitality, your tireless efforts played a pivotal role, making the visit a smooth and memorable experience for everyone involved. And he asked that we convey our thanks to other local, county, or state personnel and agencies who helped make this visit possible, and there were quite a few. So I think that's very gracious of them to, and I did share this with the heads of those departments. Okay, next up is deer-related correspondence, of which there are so many I cannot possibly read them unless everyone wants to stay overnight. So what I'm going to do is summarize them. And some people actually graciously said you don't have to read my letter, but
They're all available.
Right, they're
yeah,
available.
they are available, but not to worry, I'm not about to do a lengthy summary. First off, it would be fair to say that many of these people, if not all of them, have already signed a petition indicating that they are in favor of the deer bow hunting that was proposed by the Irvington Woods Committee. I guess the second point to make is they focused on the impact on vegetation, on traffic, and on ticks, and they sort of urged in general immediate action. I responded to everyone with my own letter, so they know that it's been read, and I'm sure that the board members have also read it. I also issued a mayor's letter that addressed, in addition to thanking the community for what they did during President Biden's visit, addressed this particular point. Because there seemed to be a feeling in these emails that the board wasn't moving along on this process. And I will just give you a very short version of this, that January 10th, we got the Woods Committee's reports and recommendations. March 21, we held a hearing, even though we were in the middle of the budget season. We scheduled an extra board meeting. And these folks, we all work pretty hard, not only on village matters, but they all have day jobs. And now we are in the process of speaking to experts on deer management, both who are for and against the bow hunting, that have been recommended to us by the Woods Committee and others. In fact, tomorrow morning, starting at 8:30, we have 3 in a row. So we are being pretty diligent about that. In addition, the village administrator and I are working on arranging for a drone thermal survey of the woods to make sure that the numbers that we have been given are actually the numbers of deer that are in the woods. It is, of course, a snapshot that will only capture that precise moment, but it'll give us some indication whether the magnitude that we've been told about is close or not. And then we will schedule a vote on the matter. So for those who are eager to get to this right away, we will get to it in the fairly near future. And then the other point I'd like to make is there's a reason not to do this urgently, and it has nothing to do with deer or the Irvington Woods. It has to do with respecting my colleagues on this board. When we make a difficult decision, I expect each of them, whether they agree with me or not, to be given enough time to express their opinion. And I also expect everybody on this board to do the diligence and the reading and whatever else is required to be prepared to make that decision. Because when I don't do that and I rush everybody, if we had just gotten that report and shortly after we got that report on January 10th, we took a vote, if I was one of them, I would not be particularly supportive when I present another issue that's complicated. In fact, I'd be downright difficult. That may be just my personality, but regardless, I think I have a great deal of respect for the people who are to my right and my left, and I'm not going to rush this. It will get done in the fairly near future, but it's going to get done the right way. That's, I think, all I wanted to say about this particular matter. There is one piece of correspondence that I'm gonna read, only because it tried to address issues that have been raised, and I'm not reading this because I think it is necessarily representative of everybody on the board. I'm reading it just because I thought it was, and I'm gonna pick out a few sections. It addressed some of the objections that have been raised to the deer hunting. This is a letter from the chair of the Irvington Woods, and I'm not gonna do the whole letter, just a couple of points. Let's see, we wanna thank the community for their support and engagement on this topic. And they wanted to address a few concerns from a few individuals. They acknowledged that reducing the overpopulation of deer will not have an immediate, actually, it was not Zoe alone, there were 5 people. Zoe Hamilton Von Bauer, Charlotte Binns, Maxwell Carpenter, Nikki Coddington, who's a former mayor, and David Swedell. So they pointed out that reducing the overpopulation of deer won't have an immediate impact on the proliferation of invasive species in the Irvington Woods, but the deer remain this letter claims the deer remain the main impediment to the seed bank of our native forest, naturally regenerating the land. As noted by the New York DEC, in eliminating wolves, mountain lions, and other predators, humans have permanently altered the native ecosystem. And so their claim here is that it's not a new intervention on the environment, but rather the necessary consequence of our decision to live without these natural predators. They also try to address the safety issue, and I think that's in the report, about how a bow hunter would operate, but we'll talk more about that at an upcoming meeting, at a work session. And they talked about how they got their data from focusing on deer management programs in Westchester. They try to address the rebounds in deer population following the initial action, and they point out that basically would be an ongoing process. It's not a one-time deal. So we have to recognize that when we budget for it. This sort of reiterates what was in the report, but it compares the alternatives of fencing and things of that sort being expensive. And in the case of Hastings, where they have built a fence, vandals have been propping the gate open and a storm took down 40 feet of the fence line. So that, I give you that only because it was one of the few letters that wasn't just, here's a problem, deal with it quickly. So I think that is the end of correspondence. Now it's public comment, so anybody who started to raise their hand. You sure? You had your hand up first since you were way early. You gotta come up to the mic and just say who you are. Sorry, because there's people at home.
So as my wife was talking about the pride flag,
Sure.
I have friends that are gay, right? And they're proud of themselves every day. They don't need to raise a flag to prove it, and they definitely don't feel uncomfortable. So I don't understand like what your point is.
So I think it's fine that this is not about your individual friends. I think that when people in the community want like a celebration, and if as a community, right, the flags, when that decision was made to put the flags up, and there was a discussion in the community, if the board at that time decided to approve that discussion, to approve it,
Sure.
I think that was a decision made by the board, and I think it was supported by the community at the time.
I'm straight. I don't fly a flag for a month.
That's fine, that's your choice.
All right, so we're gonna put a straight flag up then? We'll have a meeting for
Or
that?
maybe you could petition the board and we could discuss it.
Maybe we might have to.
Well, maybe we do
Yeah,
that.
I think we
I
might
mean, we
have
haven't, right, we have other things that people.
I just don't see why it has to be up for a month.
I agree.
We should be celebrating other things for a month.
Okay,
There's many other things that should be celebrated for a month or a day. I don't see it being a gay pride flag.
that's understandable, that's you.
And listen, I'm not being fictitious. I'm being, logical here.
No, listen, I understand and I think we hear you, right? I think as a community, we celebrate different things, not everybody agrees on everything, which is fine. You're not Catholic? Do you celebrate Christmas? Christmas tree? No.
No.
Easter egg hunt? No. Okay. Are you saying?
I'm accepting of everybody
But
else's.
exactly.
Listen,
And
I get it,
Christmas
I
tree
get it.
For a very long time, so.
Listen, I
we
get
do
it.
different things.
That's
All
actually
I'm saying
no,
is we
that's
do
actually a
different
fair
things for
point.
different people.
The holiday tree is up there for pretty.
You mean the Christmas tree? It's a Christmas tree, not a holiday tree.
Well, if it's a Christmas tree, I have to take it down.
Right.
Oh, yeah?
The way the US
So you could try doing that and see what this town says or does about it. Try taking down the Christmas tree.
You're not, you don't understand.
It's the law
Yes, it's the United States
to
Constitution.
take down the Christmas tree?
If you keep calling it a Christmas tree, yes, we wouldn't be able to have it up
There's a
there.
separation of church and state.
That is correct. It's the United States
The town
Constitution.
can't endorse.
What does it have to do with religion calling it a Christmas tree?
Because,
Please, you can speak
Sorry.
to the board.
Yeah. Don't talk over me. Do me a favor.
actually, we should all
Yeah.
take a deep breath.
Yeah, let's take it down a notch. So go ahead.
So we cannot, as a government, endorse any religion, and it has been interpreted when people put up, and by the way, for many, many years, this town had a Christmas tree and it had a creche, nothing else. So there was effect, and I happened to be mayor the first time, which was 12 years ago, when the rabbi came and said, can we put up a menorah? And I kind of agonized over it, okay, what's the law? I had to do the research, look at the Constitution, look at the law, I happen to be a lawyer, look at the law behind it, and the answer is, you either let everything come in, or you let nothing come in. So that is what I mean by saying.
I'm fine with celebrating religious holidays for everyone. I'm not fine with flying a flag for a month. There's no need for it. There's other flags that should be up there and other things that should be respected other than that.
I'll tell you what, you don't have to do it now, but you guys certainly have my email. Send me some examples of other stuff that you think would be appropriate to celebrate.
Listen, I'm all for celebrating everything. I just don't think we need to celebrate it by keeping the flag up for a month.
Okay.
A day is appropriate. I don't know about a month.
You know what, I take your comment. I'd like to give other people, not just here,
Yeah,
because the opportunity to give input on that point.
sure.
Okay,
Understood.
thank you.
It's perfect timing for that, because we're all seniors.
Yeah,
You said it's like.
you gotta come up to the mic, say who you
Do I
are.
have to?
Yes, you do. Because the people who are online, we can't hear you and don't know who you are.
So,
Sorry.
Step in, guys. Okay, so we're all seniors here in Irvington, and
Me too.
I know.
I'll be 67 in
Okay, it's a
September.
wonderful town.
I'm sorry, what's your
And
name,
we-
because the people.
We really all were so
Sorry, what's your
thrilled.
name?
Diana Friedman.
Thank you.
And we all were very thrilled to have in this town a beautiful place for seniors. You had an old building and you added on something wonderful, all glass, so that we could all exercise and party and overlook the Hudson River. Then, of course, we had a basketball court that was put in front of the glass, but it's to the side. And now we're just finding out that there's actually going to be something else that will be behind the glass, which will be a pickleball court, and I forget what they called it, but yeah, multi-purpose with 8.5-foot fence, and the path that we walk down sometimes to stand and look at the river. Now we have to go back around because that path is gone, and we didn't hear anything about it. We would have loved to have been notified. We would have come and talked to you about it before it happened.
I just want to ask the village administrator a question. That was part of the last year's capital budget. So I get it.
We didn't know anything about it until recently.
No, I understand. I'm not faulting you because most people focus on something when it suddenly shows up in front of them. I get that. I'm sort of inheriting this one because it was done last year, but I still take responsibility for it. So go
No.
ahead. Finish
We
your thought.
just wish that we're all feeling like we are the seniors that are going to be affected by this. And, we also know that many of the people come to this town because of the wonderful school system, but many of them leave as soon as their kids graduate from school. We're the people still here, all the seniors, and we love this town. We're just, all of us feeling very upset about the fact that we didn't know anything about this. We don't know if they're breaking ground next week or the week after. Wow, so we really just all felt that.
And why?
Right.
So what's the best way for them to keep up to speed on the budget? Be on the Irvington mailing list?
Well, certainly, yeah.
Are any of you on the Irvington mailing list?
No. How do you get on?
It's, you have computers,
Yeah.
you go to the village website,
On the main homepage. there's
and
a-
you will get every announcement that this village makes.
And would we be able to come to some kind of meeting like that?
Yeah, so that capital budget meeting and our operating budget meeting are, in fact, the operating budget probably talks about funding of the senior center and events and things of that sort. So yes, I encourage you, if you have problems, write to me, or our emails are definitely on the village website,
I'm not too good with the
irvingtonny.gov.
computer, but somebody will help me with that.
You know, I
Or
would
just call Village Hall.
What about with something so obvious down by the river as beautiful and our seniors? Why didn't somebody represent you, coming to the senior center and saying, hey, this is what's
Well,
happening,
so
let's
can I
get your
just-
input.
It came out of
We
the
are
record.
the seniors.
Yeah, so
Do you-
Joe
this-
Artino, who was, the head of,
You're going
I don't
to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
yeah. So to answer your question, Joe Artino was the head of the rec
Yes,
department,
at
and
the
he's the
time,
one who
yeah.
represents the seniors. He came to us at the capital budget meeting last year and begged is not the right word, advocated strongly that we include that court in the budget. In other words, he spoke
See, I told you.
to us and said, please do this in very
Right.
forceful terms.
I told you.
I agreed with him, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, I thought he made a
did.
very good argument, and he convinced me and he convinced the four other board members,
So
so.
you mean, he was head of recreation and.
Correct.
And he
said. Retired, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
So we didn't, I mean, so in other words, it's not something the board came up and said, you know what, we should block their view. It's more, Joe came to us and said, we've got a lot of requests for pickleball, and I remember I said to him, well, it can be used for other things, because there were fads. He goes, oh yeah, absolutely, it can be volleyball, it can be lots of different things. And he made a case as to why it would be cost effective
And why it would make sense to have it in front of the glass of the senior center as opposed to maybe the Matheson Park?
Well, I think they're occupying the space that's the existing court, yes? They're
No.
maybe-
No,
it's
Oh, it's pushed
brand new.
forward?
To the
Okay.
north.
Can I,
You'll
can I
see if you come to the
Yeah,
center,
well,
there's no
Yeah.
parking.
Joe chose the site and said it would be good here, and
Can I just
You know,
ask you if my name is Barbara McAvoy, and I've been a resident of Irvington for many, many years, and I've taught in Irvington for over 20 years. I love Irvington, and I love the small townness of Irvington, and you talk about inclusivity. Well, how about outclusivity? Because we feel we've been left out. I feel disappointed that this wonderful little space that's between the senior center and the river is going to be taken, and two beautiful trees are going to be cut down for this blight called pickleball.
I mean, if
And pickleball is very popular, and it's,
Yeah,
It's
I-
okay, you wanna have it in the town. but
absolutely.
Why take that?
Why that spot? It's just this one little kind of patch that's nice.
Let me make one comment about communication. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to be on this board, particularly with no more local newspapers, and not be able to get a message out. Now, you have all acknowledged that you are not on the village
Yeah.
email list. Had you been, you would have been able to have input on this. I don't know how I'm supposed to tell people what should be, forgive me for putting it this way.
I have an idea.
What should be obvious, that if you wanna know what's going on in the village, you sign up to the village village email list, because we have no other way to reach you. I could go back to the old-fashioned way of mailing letters to everybody, but it gets pretty expensive after a while.
Couldn't there be some kind of formal, informal meeting between the village board and the seniors? Like
Well, there could be,
if someone
but-
had come down to the senior center, for
Yeah,
instance, and
because even
said,
this lovely
"You-
woman who just talked about the school budget.
Yeah.
They came to the senior center, we went upstairs
right,
and listened to the
Well,
whole
this,
thing.
this board has a committee called Recreation and Parks.
Yes.
Right,
right.
Committee that is supposed to do that. And I'm not dropping this on them, but that committee
Yes, you are.
is supposed to tell us
Well, that's
when
what
there's
we
a
were all
problem.
thinking. That
Do
would
you,
make
do you,
sense.
you know, and I don't, somewhere this got lost, I don't know, am I misstating
Well,
this?
I mean,
No, that's what I asked.
Well,
We know
I
well,
was
the
just-
hi- you know, the hierarchy would be Joan Armstrong,
Right.
who oversees the senior program.
Correct.
Is
Wonderful.
And is wonderful.
She does a
By
fabulous
the way,
job.
if
Is
you had-
overseen,
if you
is
knew about it, you
overseen
said
by
something
the
to her then.
recreation department.
Yeah.
So that should and would be the order in which information would
We
come out.
actually have talked to her, and she really doesn't want to, she doesn't want to be the person who's complaining or
Then she can
starts-
tell Maureen.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is now,
And
ahead
then I
of-
tried to talk to, is Maureen, that she,
to Polly,
she
yeah.
was the first, she came to a party or something, and we all said, can we talk to you, because we're just hearing
Yeah.
about this. And she was just new but basically, it's kind of sad, we're all now, maybe it's too late. I
Why don't
don't
you
know.
speak to Maureen so in the
Is it
future?
a done deal?
It's too late.
I
Yeah,
It's
think
too
it
late.
is.
Of course it is. It was done under the table.
What's the
No, it was not done on the table.
Everything happened at a public meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to be, I don't even want to be in the,
You gotta
in the
tell us
discussion.
name.
Yes, my name is Ana Maria Kusiak. Okay, I work for my boss was Larry Schofer here. Yes, I work here for almost 30 years.
Yep.
Okay, really, this situation, Joe Archino never, ever notified us for any construction going on. That's the first thing. We found out this, I found out by accident, looking for meetings, and it was in a work session, not a open, like now, that is a regular board meeting. Because work sessions, nobody can speak up. Okay. That's when I was done past the budget at the end of the session. So it was really almost like the last 5 minutes.
Okay, but
Well,
if you are walking away from here, any of you, thinking there's some secret conspiracy to hide
No,
it from you,
no, no,
you
no.
have to acknowledge that had you been signed up on the village email list, you
Yes,
would
yeah, but,
know about
but
it.
this is a
It's
situation.
very unfair.
No, but
And
it-
I wasn't on the board to approve it, so
I
I'm
know.
speaking as a resident right
Exactly,
now.
I understand, I
You can go watch
understand.
the
And
video on
I
the
remember
website for the
you,
meeting.
I remember you, Mayor Siegel, I was working there upstairs. Okay, but in any case, the thing is that it was not told anything, the seniors didn't know anything about it, and they pass it. You are borrowing $300,000 for that project, okay? Because that's a capital budget. And also for the basketball court, I think it's $275,000. Even though that one is only
I
to
can
renew.
quote a
Okay.
bigger number for what we did to repair the HVAC at the senior
I
center.
know, I understand.
So that's a
No, no,
very
no, no.
unfair number
No,
to
no, no,
throw
but
out.
what I'm.
In fact, magnitudes of that number.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this, that area, as you know, is contaminated area. So it's blood.
If you go through
Yeah,
the
exactly.
cap, which we are
And they are
not.
gonna do it because they have to go through they have to throw through the liner in order to put the new liner protector. Yes, Larry
Okay.
knows that.
Yeah. but
Yes,
they're-
they
they're
have to
handling
put it.
But that, they're
They have
doing
to
what
do
they,
that.
but they're doing the right
Yes.
thing.
But all these things, why you disturb green areas? Irvington's supposed to be a green village, first of all. You are destroying grass, trees.
Can I take that as you don't want a stage in Matheson Park and you don't ever want a dog park? And I can go on
no,
for a
no,
while.
no, no,
Well,
that-
no,
no,
those
no,
would
no, I
disturb
didn't say-
trees and green areas.
But the pickleball.
So I
A
can't,
pickleball.
basically you don't want your view impaired. That's what you're telling
No,
us,
no, no,
correct?
no, no.
It seems
It's also.
crazy that we
the-
spent so much money in this town, and we're so thankful that we had a building, and you built some beautiful space that we use for many functions. We love it, and our beautiful glass, except that that's where the choice was to put all of this right behind this, why
So the head of Parks and Rec came to us and said that this is a good plan that we want to support.
Yeah, but
Right.
I would
that's the
suggest going
thing.
forward, because we can't, unless someone has a time machine and that they're hiding it from me, we can't go back in time, but we can talk about going forward. I think it'd be, 1 second please, let me finish.
Sure.
I think it'd be a good idea for you guys to set up a meeting with Maureen and explain going forward that you would like to be kept in the loop when things are happening that are affecting the senior. And knowing Maureen, having worked with her now, I think she would be thrilled to meet with you, because she wants to make sure she understands all of her constituencies and what they want. The reason Joe came, I believe, and you'd have to check with Maureen about this, was because they were being besieged by people who wanted not just pickleball, but other court type things, and they don't have a lot of space for that. So they did the study. If you ever go, when I'm lucky enough to be able to go once a month to the projects meeting of all the Irvington projects, you realize how much construction is going on, the limited spaces, the things that we're facing against. It's very hard to do stuff here. And Joe came to the board last year at the capital budget and said, this is the best thing. I'm the head of the department, and this is the best thing that I think, and here's where I think you should do it. And he made a case, right? Now, I would say for the future, because we don't have a time machine, talk to Maureen, so that in the future, that will never happen again, that there'll never be action taken that affects your center in a way that you don't have.
There's nothing else to affect at this point if everything's gonna
And
go
say
black.
that, because you never know.
And by the way,
But-
if something doesn't work out with Maureen, you can talk to Larry or you could talk to me. And I'm not saying that Maureen doesn't have the right to make a decision. I'm saying that if you think she's ignoring you, then you have other people or other people on this board.
Okay, let me, I don't know, maybe a comment. You said that there is no areas to put a pickleball. I think it's an easier way to do it where the tennis courts are. It's a tennis court, this is gonna be a pickleball with 8 feet high walls.
You should
the
go
net.
down there
You can,
to
you
see what
just,
we're
you see the
talking
map.
about.
If you see the map, it's gonna be 8 feet high if I'm not wrong, Larry. It's
I
gonna
don't
be-
have the plans
Okay, the
memorized,
plans,
I'm
well,
sorry.
the plans, if you see it, well, that's a proposal from the constructor,
No, I
the
understand.
company.
I understand.
That is gonna be doing the tennis, the basketball and the pickleball court. And it says very clear, if you read there, the dimensions and everything is 8 feet high.
I mean,
So that's definitely high,
If you
cover
came down and
services.
saw the senior center, and I'm sure many
Exactly.
of you have,
Yes.
it's absolutely beautiful, and it's just the saddest thing.
Yes, they should have.
After spending all the
another
money in
place.
this town, our tax dollar, to build something as wonderful
It still
as
is,
that.
it still is not done anything, so I think that money can be returned. We're spending borrowing, not even spending, we are borrowing $300
$300.
for $300,000 for what? For something that is not good. Two pickleball court, that means 4 people may be playing there. And the parking lot is going to be compromised too. Because people are not gonna go and park all the way also at the end, because it's gonna be right there where the seniors parking lot is. So that's another thing.
So that's the kind of thing you could talk to Maureen about, regulating the parking in such a way that the senior parking won't be impacted, thinking going forward.
I know, but what I'm saying is that if this will be nice if you can reconsider, return the money, stop the project, that you can do the basketball court, because it needs really to be, put it back again, because it's the cement really buckle up and those things that you were issuing that is not even the floor. But the other thing is to start a project for what? For something that is not really, it's not gonna be used not only for the spring and summer, winter, nothing. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
So-
For having things like that.
I guess the way I would put this, and of course the decision was made previously and the commitments have already been made. This board is not all-knowing. That means we have to rely on the opinions of others. When we get a superintendent of rec who makes a recommendation, and we get the RPAC committee that looks, they may not, I don't know the extent they looked at this aspect of it, but we rely on experts for certain decisions. We're not out making decisions about pickleball courts. So this decision was made based on experts. I understand it impacts your view, and that is unfortunate. And we have a capital projects meeting next week. We can discuss it. I doubt there is much we can do about it at this point in time, but it's next Wednesday, and we can raise the subject matter, whether something can be done to lessen the impact of the fence on the view.
We invite you to come and just take a look at what we're talking about. Come down to
Not a
the
problem.
senior center.
I'm down there quite a bit.
Right.
But I haven't seen what you just described, because it's in plans,
With
right?
this kind of a scenario,
It's,
if Channel 12 knew that this was going on.
Call Channel 12. I got no problem with that.
But you're gonna be exposed.
Okay.
I'm a journalism professor.
Please.
Call Channel 12.
Please, yeah.
That's the way journalism works in this country.
If, by the way, if you would like my job, it's up in a year from November.
I'm retired, thank
All
you.
right. So am I.
Thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
I would think.
And I get it, I get it, you,
It just-
it is unfortunate, you are describing something that
It's so sad.
people,
just
it would have been
seems so
nicer if
sad to
people
all
saw it
of
ahead
us.
of time, but a decision was made based on the
Sorry
input that we
we didn't
got. And I feel particularly bad because you're right, you didn't get to have a say in it, but now you know how to get one.
Okay.
So please, I beg of you to sign up for the village email list and to talk to Maureen. Do not let it happen again. And yes, we will have that conversation next week when we have the capital budget.
The library has a computer you could use.
Yes.
No,
The
she needs,
library has a
oh
computer.
no, she needs someone that.
By the way, ladies, if I go, she goes, she's my wife.
Oh my
God.
And a library has a representative.
I tell you.
The library's great. Everything
Maureen,
is
I
great
wanna
in this
join
town.
the
It just
club.
seems so sad to all of
No,
us.
but I,
And this is
about
where
the-
it was situated.
about
If we had
computer
known,
those
we would have tried to say, could we?
So really,
I'd be happy to work on
It
it.
was not even a census or anything like that? I mean,
But
only
let's
Joe did it that
I
way.
doubt it was
That's
just
and that's it?
Joe, there had to have been others with
Joe and
input.
RPAC, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
that's where those
but that's
decisions
it.
get
That's
made,
nothing to
If
the
there is
community,
anything
no
that could be
communication with the
done, maybe
community.
it's not too late.
other
Let's
than the
see.
capital budget.
Yeah.
There wasn't a
Well,
special meeting
our
related.
PAC meetings are public as well.
Well, sure.
Yeah, and we couldn't, I mean, I'm not gonna.
right, actually, you can even attend those for that matter, or speak to a member of our PAC, which by the way is listed on the village website, the people who are on that committee.
And was that the meeting where it was discussed in stuff, is it also?
No, it would have been discussed in a village board meeting. I'll give you, I'll give you an example, right, of how the
It was
sequence had happened.
discussing.
And you know, you and I had that discussion 6 months ago.
Yes. but
Okay,
everybody-
so
But I said.
These people could have
She's the
heard
only
this
one.
information.
I am the only one that communicate with them,
Let us
but
know.
everybody's.
Okay, but why didn't you raise it up
Okay, no, but what happened
so we
is
could
this.
do something?
They said, oh no, they're not gonna be doing in the parking lot, it's gonna be only the back.
Who said that?
Well, they're not doing it in the park.
You see, that's what I said. And the parking lot, I got, if you really see the meeting on May 21 of 2023, it really is, the way the meeting was going on, it looks like the wording is that it's gonna be in the parking lot. And that's what shocked me, when I heard that, I said, wait a minute, you're gonna get away the parking lot from the seniors? That was really my first impression.
Yeah.
So then I questioned it, and they said, somebody else from the seniors spoke with Joe Archino, sent an email or something, and he said, Joe Archino, oh, no, nothing, it was gonna be, not gonna affecting you any, nothing, it's gonna be only, not in the parking lot, it's gonna be in the back. But no, that's it, I said, what is gonna be in the back? Oh, it's gonna be a multi-purpose court, something, but that's it, that's your, nothing.
Okay, but I
said to the-
can't
There was
influence a
communication.
conversation that
No
you-
communication at all, nothing. We have to, it's like pulling teeth out, pulling.
Okay, but I
words out.
just gave you the solution to that, so please use it.
Yeah, and
Oh, definitely, we're happy. to
Yeah,
use it.
and we'll we'll have
But
a
if you-
conversation.
we appreciate if you can look into it and maybe, hopefully, if it doesn't start the project, you can still stop it. Because the project is not done yet. It's only our measurements and that's it. Okay, so if that's the case, I will be, the seniors will be so happy. Everybody will be a senior. You are a senior, I'm a senior.
I
A lot of
understand.
people. So eventually, the village is, historically, we're getting old.
Believe me, I know.
So what are you gonna do? We have to,
so
appreciative.
Thank you.
face it.
thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
So next Wednesday, what's
Okay.
today, Monday, a week from Wednesday,
Okay,
we'll talk about it.
okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening, thank you for letting us.
Okay,
Any other public comments?
oh, I'm sorry, yes.
You can go on the committee, you're taxpayer.
Hi, my name's Beth Bushman Kelly. I just wanted to speak in favor of the pride flag. As someone who, I grew up in Irvington, and I know that there's been a lot of change, since I was in school in the 80s. And there, things like the menorah was never up when I was in school. And, that may be a change that people are uncomfortable with adjusting to, or other changes. But I think the pride flag is something that it represents a community that has historically not been talked about or seen in a good way. And it brings people in, the idea of including, it brings people into the village who have not felt that they were, there aren't events for them. There aren't, celebrations that put up trees or whatever. And it's also important for young people. I think it's something that people can look to and, I have children in the schools, and the rate of suicide for teen LGBTQ people who, don't feel recognized or have struggled with their identity is exceedingly high. It's something that would help with this kind of, for people who find it an inclusive thing, and for people who don't appreciate it, I would say what basically you're saying, that, there's an element of tolerance where we don't have to like everything that we all do, but, we can include different constituencies and respect their right to be included.
Thank you, very well said.
Okay, any more comments? No, okay. Consent agenda. I will make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, permanent appointment in the rec department. I just have to roll past a few dear letters.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay, my motion is resolved to appoint Michael Denardo to the permanent position of Recreation Supervisor at an annual salary of $89,926, effective May 7th, 2024. That is not changing his salary, it's just giving him recognition of the title that he has in any case. So that's my motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Joint paving contract. Larry, did you want to say something about that?
Well, just a brief thing that, this is the contract that Irvington has been bidding for a number of years on behalf of the 6 Greenberg villages and Sleepy Hollow. And this year we, there's just a subtle wrinkle in all of this, which is that the apparent low bidder on the day of the opening was Waters Construction. They were the low bidder by approximately $1,000 on a $1.9 million contract. So it was a very tight bid. But it turns out that there was after analysis by our engineers, there was a line item in the Waters bid, which they, after the fact, acknowledged was a mistake. They had underbid a particular line item, and in comparison to the other bidders, our engineers pointed that out to them, and they voluntarily withdrew their bid. Which,
Lucky they were allowed to do that.
yeah, I mean, the line item only affected the village of Elmsford, to be honest. So we wouldn't have taken them up on it anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, low bid, Montesano Brothers, which is the same contractor we had last year, as it turns out.
Got it. And just because you confirmed this for me, I'll repeat it. And that is that we, the Village of Irvington has no responsibility for any of the economic obligations of the other villages.
No.
It's basically like a state contract. People
Correct.
can take what they need out of this at this price. All right, my motion is, whereas the Village of Irvington, in a cooperative relationship with the villages of Ardsley, Elmsford, Hastings, Sleepy Hollow, and Terrytown, has solicited bids for the milling and resurfacing of various streets in the Village of Irvington and partner municipalities referenced above. And whereas a public notice for this project bid was duly advertised on April 12, 2024, and whereas at 11 a.m. on May 1, 2024, at Irvington Village Hall, all bids received were opened and as summarized below.
You don't have to read those.
I will skip over those. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bid submitted, determined that the lowest bidder is in order and responsive to the specifications. And whereas following the unit values bid in the contract and the extended totals based upon the engineer's estimates of the work to be performed in the Village of Irvington, the value of the work is $299,888, with the balance of the contract value for work, a portion of the villages of Ardsley, Elmsford, Hastings, Sleepy Hollow, and Terrytown collectively summing to $1,692,089.90, And whereas in accordance with the contract, each partner municipality or other municipalities that they piggyback on this bid will separately authorize the contract and be responsible for payment of services performed within their respective municipality directly to the contractor. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Irvington hereby awards the contract for the work to be performed for the 2024 milling and resurfacing on various streets in the Village of Irvington to Montesano Brothers, Inc., in accordance with their unit prices contained in their bid of May 21, 2024, for the work to be performed within the Village of Irvington and the other 5 villages, and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up, the village attorney retainer agreement. And my motion is resolved to approve the retainer agreement, number 2024-13 with the firm of Stessich, Murphy and Lammers LLP, providing for an hourly rate of $180 per hour for basic retainer services and $230 per hour for services outside of the basic retainer, and authorize the mayor to execute said agreement. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contract for auto parts. Whereas sealed bids were received and opened on April 24, 2024 at 11 a.m. in Village Hall as follows, and you can see that they are listed there. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bids submitted and determined that all bids are responsive to the specifications. Whereas the central garage needs to purchase parts for a variety of different vehicles, makes and models, necessitating the designation of multiple suppliers. Now therefore be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to execute a purchase contract for auto parts with each of the suppliers on the terms outlined above. Before I ask for a second, just, and maybe folks all saw my email, I asked why do all 4, and the answer is they all have different parts or different brands. So I'll take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Award of contract parts 1 and 2 for cleaning services at Village Hall, Library and Theater. Motion is whereas sealed bids were received and opened on April 24, 2024 at 11 a.m. in Village Hall as follows, and there are 4 bids listed with varying prices. Whereas the bids submitted were reviewed and it was determined that the bid from the low bidder NSI Clean Worldwide Inc. is in order and responsive to the specifications. Now therefore be it resolved to award contract 2024-07 parts 1 and 2 to NSI Clean Worldwide Inc. for an annual amount of $52,778 and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract.
Larry, is that the same company that's doing cleaning now or no?
No.
Who was the old company?
Fullerton?
Oh, so they lost the bid?
Well, they won the third contract.
Right, but not this
But
one.
not this, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Do I have a second on that one?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, award of contract 2024-07 Part 3 for cleaning services at the Irvington Rec Center and Senior Center. Whereas sealed bids, my motion is whereas sealed bids were received and opened on April 24, 2024 at 11 a.m. in the Village Hall as follows, and you see the listing of various company names and their yearly charges. Whereas the bids submitted were reviewed and it was determined that the bid from the low bidder Fullerton Services Industries is in order and responsive to the specifications. Now therefore be it resolved to award contract 2024-07 Part 3 to Fullerton Service Industries for an annual amount of $22,140 and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next up is award of contract for miscellaneous hardware and supplies. Whereas sealed bids were received and opened on April 24, 2024 at 11 a.m. in Village Hall as follows. It was from Irvington Hardware and Reader's Hardware. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bids and submitted and determined that the bidders are in order and responsive to the specifications. Now therefore be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to execute a purchase contract for miscellaneous hardware and supplies with each of the suppliers in the terms outlined above. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's see if I can hold out here. I do have a cough drop available if necessary.
Do you have a defibrillator?
Okay, award of contract for tree removal, tree pruning and stump grinding. Whereas sealed bids were received and opened on April 24, 2024 at 11 a.m. in Village Hall. That must have been an exciting day. Exciting moment, as follows. One bidder was Ramos and V Tree Service Inc. and the other Olmsted Tree Shrub and Lawn lawn care, and you see the pricing. Whereas the village administrator reviewed the bids submitted and determined that the lowest bidder is in order and responsive to the specifications. Now therefore be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to execute a purchase contract for tree removal, tree pruning, and stump grinding with Ramos and V Tree Services, Inc. for the unit prices specified. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Award of contract for use and operation of heavy equipment. Whereas one bid was received for contract 2024-10 for the use and operation of heavy equipment as follows. 2XPC Corp. DBA Those Guys Contracting for $105,090. And just refresh my memory, that represents a rate based on what we take? Or is that an actual, here's the equipment, I'm keeping it available for the year? Or am I asking an impossible question?
We pay them on a daily basis. So whatever equipment we use, they give us daily rates for each of the various pieces of equipment. The dollar amount that you see here is based upon what we estimate to be the annual usage. Now, the reality is if we have large projects, it's gonna be much larger than that.
Got it.
But at least it allows you to
But we know what the
compare-
daily rate is, effectively.
Right, but at least it allows you to compare one with another.
If there
based
was
upon-
another.
If there was another, yes.
Got it,
of course.
Okay, let's see, whereas the village administrator reviewed the bids submitted and determined it is responsive to the specifications. Resolved to award contract 2024-10 for the use and operation of heavy equipment in the amount of $105,090 to 2XPC Corporation DBA Those Guys Landscaping as primary contractor and to authorize the village administrator to execute said contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of extending contract for general construction. And
I'm like, dear Lord, where are you on this list?
am I,
All the way up here.
oh, did I skip?
Never ends.
No, you didn't. I'm
Okay,
just,
good. All
no,
right.
I'm just saying.
Don't
the
throw me
list is-
off, Arlene.
I know, I'm
I'm on
sorry.
a roll.
I'm like, this list is very long.
So
I'm like,
I-
wow.
Shorter.
I think,
I'm like, wow.
let's see, all right. So this is
Everyone's
approval of extending
flooring
contract for
ceramic
general
tile.
construction.
Can you just, one second, Larry, can you just, for the next couple, explain about extending contracts as opposed to?
I can do it, I asked the question.
Either one.
Yeah, so
John can do it.
if there are extensions, it is because it was built into the original contract and we have the option to do it. And we're making a decision presumably that it's more economical than putting it out to bid again. Correct.
Thank you.
Great minds think alike, so.
That's the same answer I would have given.
Yeah, all right, good. I appreciate the reinforcement. Approval of extending contract 2023-02 for general construction. Be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to extend the contract for general construction with Pacific Transglobal Construction Corporation for an additional year, June 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025, for the unit prices specified in their bids submitted on April 19, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of extending contract 2023-03 for painting and finishing. Be it resolved that the village administrator, this is my motion, be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to extend the contract for painting and finishing with A&J Construction of New York, Inc. for an additional year, June 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025, for the unit prices specified in their bid submitted on April 19, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think I'm on 20 here. Approval of extending contract 2023-04 for flooring. Be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to extend the contract for flooring with A&J Construction of New York, Inc. for an additional year, June 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025, for the unit prices specified in their bid submitted on April 19, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of extending contract 2023-05 for ceramic tile. My motion is be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to extend the contract for ceramic tile with Pacific Transglobal Construction Corporation for an additional year, June 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025, for the unit prices specified in their bid submitted on April 19, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of extending contract 2023-06. You're giving up?
No, I want to see the agenda.
We're almost to the end. Hang on.
There's only 35 more, don't worry.
It's about 4 more.
Yeah.
Let's see, approval of extending contract 2023-06
Coming over.
for plumbing. Be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to extend the contract for plumbing with New York Home Maintenance Co., Inc., DBA A. Borelli Mechanical for an additional year, June 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025, for the unit prices specified in their bid submitted on April 19, 2023. Do I have a second for that one?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's see, we're on 23, huh? This is approval of extending contract 2023-07 for electrical. Be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to extend the contract for electrical with Morabito Inc. for an additional year, June 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025, for the unit prices specified in their bid submitted on April 19, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the, let's see, 24, right. Approval of extending contract 2023-15 for HVAC. Be it resolved that the village administrator is authorized to extend the contract for HVAC with New York Home Maintenance Co., Inc., DBA A. Borelli Mechanical for an additional year, June 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025, for the unit prices specified in their bid submitted on April 19, 2023. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so next up is just a brief update on the Rocktoberfest event, which I think you could probably do, Mitch, or.
Sure.
And it comes to us from, I guess, somebody.
Francis.
Francis, yeah.
So I'm not gonna read Francis's whole.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll
What-
just kind of hit
yeah.
the main points. So, following the group of volunteers, along with representatives of the rec department and Arlene and I as the board liaisons, had a meeting, about a week or two ago to see if it was possible for October just to go forward. It seemed like there were a lot of boxes that were checked off and a few challenges. So, after that meeting, the two co-chairs, Jared Zerman and Francis O'Shea, met with Mike Maureen at the rec department to really go through item by item and see what would be necessary to be covered and who would have to do it and things like that. They also started talking about the budget for the event that they were using as a base. Katie had provided them with last year's budget, and they were talking about how they would need bringing on people to do certain tests and working with the police and the part-time rec department people that would be brought in for the event. They also wanted to with the budget talk about, they wanted the board to weigh in, and I thought we had talked about this, but I'm happy to do it again, where they were saying that the sponsorship played the role traditionally of backstopping the event in the eventuality that it rained and had to be canceled and all this stuff had to be paid for anyway, but there would be no admissions. They said, but a key part of the decision is no, in the past, it was meant to be a fundraising event that made a profit to help pay for other things like the fireworks, and they wanted to know for the board to weigh in on what the program purpose is. And I think, and please, if anyone disagrees, jump in and say it, but I think we've made it clear from the beginning of this that this is a transition year, that we had a former way of doing it, that we've had a change in the rec department. The rec department is now a little short-handed, and that we have now hopefully in the future, a bigger committee to plan multiple events in the park. So this is, 2024 is a transition, just so we don't lose out on Oktoberfest this year. And I think the board would be thrilled if the event broke even, right? Is that a consensus on the board?
Yes. And they had some money from what they had raised previously that they can use it.
As to help
So, yeah.
backstop, yes, so we can reiterate to them that the board does not expect this to be an event that turns a huge profit, but rather if it were to break even, that would be acceptable to the board, right, okay. And the biggest hurdle they have, and it's good to say this in a public meeting, I don't know if there's anyone still online or whatever, but is, they still need volunteers, and there are two things that really were baked into this part of the letter. The first is they need a couple of people to step up to oversee portions of the event, specifically hospitality and the cash boxes. That's the thing they're really looking for now. They also said that generally speaking, it takes longer to get day of volunteers, and that usually gets done closer to the event. People are usually reluctant to commit in May to take a 4-hour shift in September, right? So they said that they're more, they're very optimistic that that's not gonna be a problem, but what they need to sort out right now is to make sure they have volunteers in place for day of to manage the different areas. And the final thing he said is that they think, I'm gonna read the last sentences, overall, progress has been solid and we look forward to moving the ball forward in coming days and weeks. We will be setting our next meeting following Jared's return on May 12th. and onwards. So they seem pretty confident that they can do this. Obviously, I think the areas to look out for are they have to solidify a budget and work out the sponsorship stuff, which that's one of the areas that rec cannot do this year. Of all the things that rec used to do, they're doing now, that seemed at the big meeting, Arlene, you were there, you'll agree, that's the one thing they said, we don't do that. Joe's gone, we don't do that. All the other things are like, oh yeah, well, we can help you with this, we can help you with that, but when it came to that, it was like, they put a wall up there, which is good, I'm glad that rec articulated what it is that they would not be able to do, which I thought was very helpful, I'm very thankful to Maureen and Mike for doing that. But I think that the hurdle is gonna be, are they gonna have people to volunteer to oversee stuff, considering that Jared won't be there and Francis may or may not be there.
Yeah, it would be good to know, I'd say by the end of this month, but when we get to our last meeting, that they think they can get the people in place. Because otherwise, I think for some of their longer lead time items, probably starting to bump up into, problem time. So,
Yeah, I think the issue, that's gonna be the main issue,
Yeah.
right? People, because otherwise we'll just be funding it with part-time rec staff,
right, so I would build.
which we try to move.
Which is an alternative, they have saying, okay, as a backup, we're gonna leave X in the budget to cover that if we need to.
Right.
Okay.
And they also, at the meeting, there was talk of like making the event a little shorter and things like that.
Right.
That would also make it easier to cover,
Less
you're not asking
expensive,
people to
yeah.
be there, and that's the second thing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the first thing is it's less people, you
Yep.
don't need as many volunteers if you're open only from, starting 2 hours later, things like that, so, yeah.
Thank you. Let's see, reports of boards, standing committees and officers. Is anybody gonna talk about the old growth forest?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay, it's yours. You wanna start it down?
Yep, I've got no update this week.
Okay.
News, Recreation and Parks Department co-sponsored 2 Riverkeeper sweeps this past week, one with the staff from Eileen Fisher and the other with Irvington High School. Registration is happening now for day camp, 3 years old through students entering 8th grade, Teenscape Session 2 only for current 7th and 8th graders, summer youth basketball for students entering 3rd through 8th grade, and Lego workshops for current kindergarten through 2nd grades. Registration begins May 8th for youth tennis. Registration takes place on the Community Pass at register.capturepoint.com/Village of Irvington. The Senior Citizen Mother's Day Luncheon will be held on Friday, May 10th for Irvington residents. If you'd like to join the Senior Citizen Group, please contact Joan Armstrong at jarmstrong@irvingtonny.gov. The Memorial Day service will be held on Monday, May 27th at 10 a.m. Irvington's Family Tennis Day will be held June 22nd from 10 to 1 at Memorial Park Courts for all ages. The event is co-sponsored by the USTA Eastern and Irvington Rec and Parks. Kayak racks in Matheson Park. If you have a kayak at Matheson Park and have not yet registered, please do so as soon as possible. Kayaks that are not registered by June 1st will be removed. It's that same Capture Point email. Matheson Park, reminder that Irvington High School graduation will be held on June 15th. The park will be closed on June 14th and June 15th and will reopen at 2 p.m. on June 16th. There's part-time employment opportunities for a bus driver at the Senior Citizen Program, for park attendants age 19 and above, for counselors age 16 and above, and teachers for the summer camps. Deadline to apply is this Friday. And finally, the Irvington Woods Park celebrated receiving national recognition from the Old Growth Network Community Forest Registration this past weekend. This recognition can be attributed to the 318-year-old white oak tree of the Irvington Woods and honors all who have contributed to the growth and preservation of the O'Hara Nature Center and Irvington Woods Park over the last 2 decades and more. Thank you to CJ, Zoe, the Woods Committee, and volunteers who helped with this amazing event. I wasn't there, but John, if you have anything that you want to add.
Elaine was there.
If anyone
I
wants to add.
hiked to the oak in my high heel sandals. That was a poor choice on my part.
But it was
It was
a
a
very
lovely-
well done
yeah,
program, and
yes.
it should have showed all of the things that they're doing there.
Yeah, and it was very well attended.
And I had not known this, and maybe I should have, that they have a deer exclosure behind the nature center. So I wrote CJ saying, how long's it been up, and can you tell me what you've seen in the impact? Because So I'm not suggesting this should drive us towards a fence, but it tells you what happens if deer are not there, if it's been up for an extended period. So be interesting, I'm waiting for him to, I also thanked him for what he did, but be interesting to see, what's going on there. So, Mitch?
Just one thing with the library, they have extended hours on Mondays and Wednesdays because of AP exams, so that's tonight, obviously today, Wednesday, 5 to 8, and they're gonna do Mother's Day card making, so make sure the kids get the card, they don't forget to do Mother's Day cards. Monday, May 13th, it's 5 to 8, and there's gonna be a petting zoo in the reading garden to help them calm down. And then Wednesday, May 15th, 5 to 8 is the last one, so if you have high school students taking AP exams, you can go down there and, study and relax. And there's also food for the teens there, they're gonna give them snacks.
Yeah, don't send your mother a text. Right?
Yes, make an actual.
That could be part of your trustee update if you'd
Exactly.
like.
Don't send your mother a text, yes, okay. So, DPW received Westchester County Department of Environmental 2024 Echo Award. So the Village of Irvington, for achieving the highest waste percent reduction in Westchester County in 2023. And so that was just my update. They also send me the normal update that they send me of all the great things that we all know that DPW does, and also the water department. I wanted to give an update that the Bulldogs are the newly named Arts and Culture Committee, thank you. Formerly the Bulldog Gallery Committee. The Bulldogs are gonna come back this summer, and there's going to be a summer festival Sunday, June 2nd. So keep a lookout for the information that's gonna be coming from 2 to 5 p.m. And there's gonna be a Juneteenth celebration at Villa Luaro, also more information to come June 22nd, also 2 to 5 p.m. I think I messed up the June 2nd, 2 to 5 p.m. I think it's 12 to,
You're right, it's.
yeah, it's 12 to 2 and 2 to 5, okay, yes.
I'll tell you with certainty here, since I stuck it in my calendar. June 2nd, 12 to 4.
12 to 4, okay, perfect, okay. I'm just gonna say 2 to 5 for everything.
Okay, and I'll put you guys in. Okay.
Village Administrator's report?
Just a quick reminder that the East Sunnyside Lane is still subject to closure every day as a result of Con Edison's construction. This should not be a terribly long process. It hopefully will be another few weeks as opposed to months. But the closure is 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock-ish every day.
They were earlier today.
Yeah. They started earlier?
No, they ended earlier.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, the starting shouldn't happen.
No, it's
Yeah.
just, it's the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately for you, other people pointed out some of the issues in advance, and I think we modified the schedule a little bit, the starting time.
Yeah.
Okay, Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
Sure, so our adopted budget is now posted on the village website, so anyone can view that. The capital budget will first be discussed at next Wednesday's work session. And we got a bunch of calls on this lately. The tax payment website has currently been taken down because we're uploading the new assessments and roll and working on re-levies, so we don't want people to start paying early and on the wrong amounts.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you. Village Attorney?
No report.
Okay. Public comment? You just came to hear at the very end of the meeting? All right.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Your name, please?
Judy
Please
Siegel.
identify yourself.
Yes.
Judy Siegel. I just want to acknowledge that I feel that I saw something really remarkable here tonight at this meeting, which is that many, many diverse Irvingtonians had the courage to stand up at this microphone and passionately talk about something that was very important to them. And everyone in this room listened. And we listened respectfully. And when it got a little out of hand, we all took a breath. And I'm floored by that, and I feel really proud of that. And I feel like I almost witnessed, democracy at its best. So I personally am grateful for the courage that everybody showed to stand up at this microphone and
and the civility that we treated each other with.
Thank you.
Pat Ryan, 10 South Dutcher Street. I'm just going to say that I believe that I missed the most important part of this meeting. And I'm sorry about that. But I'm struck by living in a community that is willing to celebrate. My God, we even celebrate a tree. You know, and I'm struck by the willingness to kind of expand our views and be more open and more accepting. And I have lived here for over 40 years, and I remember a time when that was not the case. And I have to say that I am proud of the people who are kind of willing to do that. It's never easy to do, but in the end, it is the most important thing we do. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think that is it. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Yes? More? Anybody else want to make a comment? Nope. Then motion to adjourn, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.